And I'm back. It's been a hot minute here. I've had some other stuff going on. But I have, as you can see, sort of jumped ahead in the actual building of this kit. It's more or less done, it just needs its arm or its hands and its accessories, which you do get a bit more than the previous kit, and I do like that. However, not all is well in paradise, I suppose. I have some things to demonstrate here. Let's take a look at the legs. These are probably the most interesting sort of feature about this kit. There are some simulated hydraulic pistons in the back. The idea being, and I'm not going to do it too much here, the idea being is that you can, when the leg moves, these kind of move with it. And it works okay until it falls apart. And this is where my major gripe with the kit comes in. As you can see, it just sort of popped off. The problem being is that the way these polycaps, these ball-jointed polycaps, sit inside of the leg socket, I think, one, the socket is a little too shallow. It's kind of hard to see, but it's the larger blue one. I don't know why there's like another one in there. You don't use that. The problem is that whenever you push down to insert these into the leg, you're pushing down on this polycap, which then causes it to go past, or there isn't really a stopper to prevent the polycap from going further down into the peg. So you get this part that pokes up and kind of wants to push it out of the socket. So the legs tend to kind of fall apart, or at least the feet area does. The solution I'm thinking of is just that I'm going to trim and kind of cut down that nub there from the peg that the polycap attaches to. That way, whenever you push down, it won't like try and unseat itself. But apart from that, though, the leg, despite its kind of more exotic appearance, it doesn't really do anything else exciting. There is cool bits of detail on it. It bends reasonably well. Nothing crazy, but it's definitely more articulation than the Victoria. But again, nothing crazy. I do recommend it because of how these seat inside of the leg. The knee joint just plugs directly in. You're going to need to glue that. It's a pretty loose connection, at least it was on this kit, or my copy. So I would recommend gluing that. But otherwise, pretty rock solid. Not a lot to talk about here. It's pretty straightforward. This is the crotch area. Got a lot of nice detail. I did mention in the first video with this kit, these sections and a lot of these little thruster, I think that's what these are, areas or details, are supposed to be painted a goldish yellow color. I opted instead to just panel line and kind of fill this in with panel lining fluid to give it some depth, and I think that works just fine. It gives it, again, depth. The head is actually really cool. I like this head design quite a bit. I did attempt to use that full clear orange faceplate piece that has both the visor and the white faceplate as one piece, and you just paint it to kind of get the little separated segments of the visor. However, that didn't work out very well, so I opted to use this instead, and I think this looks fine. This top clear orange piece, you will need to glue. It doesn't really friction fit all that well. It's also a bit paler because it's a thinner part. It's not going to be as vibrant as the visor, but I think it looks fine. Lots of really nice just panel lines, and try to fill in the little cheek intakes there. I think it turned out pretty good though. I like the head sculpt quite a bit. Something worth pointing out here is on the arms, I was actually supposed to use for the bicep, this section here, a white set of parts. And that would definitely have helped to break up the color on these arms. But the problem is that I have already glued these blue ones on. So I can't go back and change that. And honestly, I think it's fine. It's not that big a deal. I think it still looks pretty good. And like I said, I can still paint it, or like I said in the earlier videos, you will need to paint it to match anyways. So I can paint that white trim at some point if I feel like doing that. But we've kind of gone over the arms already. They're identical to the ones on the Victoria. They're the same part unit, the Lemur 2. Not a lot to say about these. And lastly, though, we have the torso or the core, and it's really nicely detailed. There's a lot of just cool bits and pieces here that look great. As I speculated, this does have orbits, and these are removable, both of them. There's two of them. However, that's the extent of really what these do. There's no clear stand or adapter to make them look like they're floating or flying around like they do in the game. They're just removable. But there is a lot of detail, including this little clear orange piece that looks really nice. Just a lot of detail on this. I think they are pretty cool. So, apart from that, though, this is mostly done. All that's really left to do is to build the accessories, which are mainly the... Get some stuff out of the way here. Mainly, we have just the weapons. So the Moonlight, which is a very famous part we've discussed previously. The same rifle as the Victoria. The linear gun, the back unit, as well as the Garyon 2 laser cannon. You get a lot more accessories in this kit than you do with the Victoria, and I think it's just because of that, just a more interesting kit. And like I mentioned before, they're both about the same price, so if you were to get one, and you don't really have a preference over, like, style, you just want one of these, or one of the 3rd gen Armored Core kits, I would say this is a good one to get. I think it has probably the best value in terms of what's included in the kit. But apart from that, it's pretty much ready to go. I just got to build that, and it should be ready. I've got 2 more kits, so I'm hoping to kind of move along and get things going at a decent pace again and get some more stuff going. But apart from that leg and foot kind of ankle joint issue, I think this is turning out really well. So, I am going to go back to moping about my wife and kids leaving me again. I hope you guys are doing a little bit better than me. Oh, I'm gonna go now. Bye.